Okay, well, I went on to the next chair. Oops. I cut it out. Well, that fell out, but you can see how it looks in its molded form. And I'm going to stick it back in here. And we're going to roll it over and cut out this side. I don't need that anymore, but I drilled a little hole here. Rather than try and cut this all the way around the way it is, I'm just making the hole a little bit bigger. It's actually a little easier. My drill won't go all the way through both pieces of wood. It's a little Dremel tool and the butt gets in the way, but no biggie. And also my braces, I decided why not just make them the right size rather than have that overlap. I don't need them to be big anymore. So I did them like this. I just sawed them off so that they were the right height. Now put them in the brace. I could probably cut this bottom piece off here, but I'm not going to worry about it. And we're ready to go. So. Zoom in a little bit. I'm using the number 5 blade again all the way through this. When I cut out the little hole on the other chair and on this one, my default drill bit size is for a number 2 blade, so it was too small for this number 5. I had to change out the blade and put the smaller blade in to cut it out. And I'll show you on this chair. It'll just be a little bit of eyeball whacking around. The smaller wood cuts better, but it's still not perfect. Cutting thick wood is not something you just do all the time. You can if you like doing these three-dimensional type things, but I'm not going to do a whole lot of these. These are kind of a pain to deal with. Remember, I'm pulling backwards, so the blunt end of the blade is being pressed against the wood, so I can turn. The other problem with using a number 5 blade is that it is hard to turn, so it's much thicker. It's a much heavier duty blade. It's got a wider shaft. But then it's got bigger teeth, so you can do faster, longer cuts with thicker wood with it. But it just doesn't turn as well as like a number 2. Kind of an interesting procedure because what you're cutting out you actually can't see the finished thing because it's buried inside the wood. What we see up here isn't going to be part of the finished project. It's all right in the center of this. Like who was it? I think it was Michelangelo that said what he does is easy. He walks up to a big piece of rock or granite and the shape that he wants is already in there. He just has to cut away all the stuff around it. And that's what this really is. Because we can't see what we're cutting. I find that kind of neat. And I gotta be careful not to cut through here. It's getting real thin. But I was on the inside of the line just a little bit on the other side. I'm a great believer in when you have thin cuts, you actually want a slightly thicker cut, just so it doesn't break. Alright, now I just have to, I'm outside the project now, I just need to get this thing cut through so it'll come all the way out. Alright, there we go. Alright, that should do it. Right. Again, buried in here somewhere in my little chair. See a little bit better how I'm doing this. And there's a little chair. How about that? 4 little legs. Make it'll stand up. And that's all there is to it. See how big it is compared to my thumb. Alright, now I'm just going to drill out this little piece here. I need a different blade. Okay, I've got my 2 chairs. Pretty much done, except for one I've carved out the hole a little bit, and I just drilled a starter hole here in this one, and this one's too small. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. Not much, I'm just going to do it by sight and try and do it carefully so I don't break the chair. Alright, tense it up. I'm back to my number 2 blade. Alright. All I'm doing is just making it kind of bigger. Very careful. I hope the thing doesn't pop and break. I'll put a little more speed on it. Just kind of rounding it around a little bit. Alright, now I'm going to turn it around and do the other side a little bit. Big enough. It's almost too big. It probably is too big. Yeah, well, close enough. Chairs with holes in them. All right, that's all the cutting. I'm just going to try and sand on it some and see if I can't clean up some of the shapes. We'll take a look at that in a minute. Okay, I've got the template of the little Bible glued onto the wood. So I tried to get it as close along that line as possible and then let the piece flop over. Now the other thing they recommend doing on this is to wrap it all in cellophane, and I think that's just going to help hold it tight. I'm not really sure how much benefit it is, but I'm not going to question the designers of this thing. They've done several of these, I'm sure, know what works best. So I'm just going to wrap this in tape. Even some of the part I'm going to cut off, but yeah. Alright, so let's wrap that. I guess that'll help hold it all together. It'll be easier to use the tape than to use the clamps, I guess. We'll see. Alright, I'm going to put another blade on here. I'm going to use a number 3, I think, on this and see how that works. And we'll cut it out. Okay,